Good evening. Welcome to Outside the Box, and indeed it is our turn. Thank you so much, Lisa, for such a wonderful disclaimer that allows me to say whatever I want, and I will. Gosh darn, I love that aspect. And tonight we, as promised last night, we have Karen Ann Macdonald joining us, and I guarantee you it's going to be very informative on many different levels, and I do want to get into the tribal aspect, ancient law, Meredith Quinn, and a whole lot of other things, a whole lot of other juicy things that I know that we'll have some fun with. Before I bring Karen on, I want to do a big shout out to everyone tuned in Birmingham. Hello, Claire. Thank you for the wonderful note today. And you'd mentioned that everyone in Birmingham, the Truth Juicers and what have you, are all tuned in. Well, we already knew that. That's why you're here. So much love to you guys. Karen, how are you doing tonight? Do we have you, Karen? I'm going to have to unmute. Let me just make sure here. Oh, hang on. Looks like, here, I'm going to pull her back in. Seemed to be a technical issue there. And Karen, have we got you? Hello? Just wait. There. Are you there? I can hear you now. There's some clicking. And I've got you in the call. I know I do because I've heard the clicking. So I guess we'll just wait until you get your end sorted out, and that shouldn't take too long. But yeah, it's been a very interesting day. Another known pedophile and war criminal, of course, working on the dirty side of things, and the first Jesuit pope elected and the first non-European in 1,200 years. So let me see. There's two numbers that show up right away. The first pope in 600 years to step down, and the first non-European pope in 1,200 years to step up. So there's 6 and 12. And today's date, 3/13/2013 at 7:06 p.m. Gosh, you'd almost think they planned all those 13s, you know?
You think so?
You know, how you doing, Karen? And given the rundown, good, yeah. Given the rundown that Santo did the other day with, what this conclave, the time that it started, at 12 noon yesterday, got to make you wonder, whoever their astrologers are, because they couldn't have picked a better day for absolute destruction of their organization. So I'm really happy to hear it. So how are you doing?
Actually, we're just having the best days ever, so we're just enjoying this show these days.
Well, I've had better seats to the show, but needless to say, I know what you're saying, and I totally agree that, yes, the show is beyond interesting. And we're talking about all the world's a stage, guys, if you didn't get that, but I'm sure you did, because we have the smartest, bestest listeners in the whole wide world. I know that.
Awesome.
So what do you want to talk about?
I thought we could just talk about a little bit today how things are sort of progressing. I wanted to touch a little bit on health today. I know the world's a stage and it's getting to be quite interesting, but as we kind of know a little bit about quantum medicine and physics, kind of what's going on inside of us is kind of what's manifesting on the outside. So okay. I thought we could do a little inner journey today.
Okay, well, like I tell everyone, this is your show, so we'll talk about whatever it is you want to cover, and I'll do my best to ride along.
Let's play a bit. So, I think, it's kind of really open dialogue, but, it was interesting today. We've just been relocated back into Saskatoon. For those of the listeners that don't know. And we started seeing different people again. And because we've been commerce-free for a long time ourselves, the whole idea of, starting the gift and things like that. So, just to give you a little bit of a rundown, when you said, how was your day? It is. It's the best day ever. Because people are, it's progressing, this ripple effect. So there's this wonderful woman that comes in to see me that was at our raw food seminar on the weekend. And we're starting to teach about raw foods. It's all about living or dead. So we can have livets or we can choose diets, And so it's a whole enlightening thing, and that pertains even to food. And so all of a sudden after that, she's following us on Facebook and there's all these things going on in the world of stage. And I said, let's just start with the inner journey. So it's amazing. So alone, what are we going to gift you? What are we going to bring as a community contribution? And so this is the whole idea of being commerce-free. It's what's benevolent for everyone and what we agree upon. So you know what my excitement was today? Guess what we got as this beautiful present today?
What'd you get?
Can you imagine 6 colonic enema bags? We thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Well, given what you do, of course it is.
Well, of course it is, right? So, you know, this is just the start of something. So that's what this particular individual could, you know, contribute to the community. So that's what was brought in. That's the start. And so everyone's starting to learn a little bit about what can we do outside the box? What can we do to help each other? So, you know, for those 6 little enema bags and explaining how it is, and one goes back, obviously, you know, she's to get one as well, but how to start looking after ourselves from the inside. So today's discussion, after we hook them up to this wonderful biofeedback, and, you know, we're going to cover a little bit about really what technology is and how we can look after ourselves really, you know, in the best way possible. And it does not have to be, you know, poverty-stricken, and it's something simple of being enlightened would be, let's say, her pH. So a lot of people come in, and if you're not familiar with the scio biofeedback is, you can do some really great research on it. And it's something that we can utilize long distance to the astronaut space program, is where the guys actually develop this type of technology. So it's free energy, life radionics, orgone, scalar, all those kind of 0-point things. And you can set it across the world, across the universe, or, you know, hook up directly to it. And so the whole thing we've got to start with people is how to get rid of the negativity and what they perceive to be their lives. You know? And what some might think is the worst day ever is actually what we might consider to be the best day ever. Attitude of gratitude. And part of that is learning what the balance is. So just for curiosity, we'll throw the question back at you. Do you know what normal pH is? What is your blood supposed to be inside? You're 80% water, so what are those fluids supposed to be?
From my recollection, it should be 7.23 alkaline.
Actually, close, ballpark, 7.36, so we'll just kind of round up to 7.4.
Okay.
But, yeah, no, you know, it's 7's neutral, but, you know, blood's got to be about 7.36 to 46, so we kind of plug it in the middle, that's it. And so all the foods, everything in the world has got a degree or variation of pH, or what's called the potential or power of hydrogen, which is really, in a way, how enlightened we are. Where's the light spectrum? You know, where is it getting into? Whether we want to say our organs, our chakras, the universe, the planet, call it however we want. Like you said, everything's about numbers and knowing the quantum numerology and knowing what our norm is. So that whole discussion, and if people have never been on a biofeedback to measure your protons, which is one of the most accurate ways, the home version is to go get litmus paper at a health food store and go pee on it. And so we like to do that first thing in the morning because all the organs have a different uptime. And so basically during the night when people start feeling not well, they can't sleep, they get insomnia, it's because in traditional medicines, your liver may not be functioning from 1 to 3. Your lungs might be not clearing everything out totally if you're breathing in this world between 3 and 5. And at 5 to 7 would be your colon. So after all this digesting thing, we're supposed to be removing all the collateral stuff here for recycling. There is no such thing as garbage. So to recycle and go into that, we usually have a bowel movement first thing in the morning. And if people are eating, normal ones are 1 meal in, 1 meal out within the hour. So we start looking at this criteria and we're starting to go into what is the first thing we got to do. We got to be getting back into a stage of enlightenment. And that means whether you want to talk about sixth chakra, our third eye, our spiritual eye, looking at things in that heavenly type of way. That starts the vibration. So as we're 7.36 or 46 to be with our blood, in this day and age right now, we almost have to
Okay, you're cutting out a little bit, Karen. I'm not sure if that's on your end or mine. Tony, I know we have Tony here. Are you hearing okay?
Yeah, just a little bit. It did indeed cut out there, Kate, as you quite rightly pointed out.
Okay, sounds like she just dropped off. Give me a sec. And there is a problem with the call. It's got to be on her end. Okay, well, if you're hearing me, I guess we're up. And gosh darn, I didn't get a whole lot of promo for the show. So, well, I know we have a lot of listeners anyway.
Yeah,
so
we're back.
there you are. There you are. We do have Tony on the board too, by the way. So just wanted to let you know.
Great, we're floating in space. That's good.
Yep.
So, yeah, what we're talking about too is getting to know what the pH is. And all the foods have got a pH or alkalinity degree. So what we start teaching is that the pH of the water's got to be somewhere up there about 8 to 9 if people are not on medications. And if they actually are, then we want their pH of water somewhere closer to neutral, like 7. So, for example, if someone's on medications and it's going into them every 8 hours to 12, you don't want it all being absorbed within an hour either. So most people are taking, like, whether they're foods that are Monsanto'd will create acidity. So you could actually have a perfectly viable grape food, and once it's been Monsanto'd or it's been injected or somehow cloned or microwaved, it's no longer viable, and our systems don't recognize it. So it's kind of foreign, so it becomes an acidic in nature. So what we have to do is look at foods that are primarily more alkaline. So we get people on a primarily alkaline intake. And so that's why the baking soda temporarily, or using borax, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon, is a great starter for moving your pH, or there are pH pills you can get at the health food stores. Or there's a great place I know up in our area called Suede Hills, and a lot of people will pop in basically alkalizing pills made out of alfalfa and minerals. So, I mean, that is an option, and that's the first thing to getting rid of any kind of, if you want to say, negativity or being in the dark, is to literally be able to absorb energy or light. That's what this whole thing is about, is being enlightened, biophotonics. And so a lot of people, we get them on our favorite foods here, which are essential oils, because it's biodynamically the most viable and quantumly nano small particled enough to get into every organ, every muscle, every vibration. So we have a little technique we use called a raindrop technique, which we'll get into a little bit later, but we literally marinate you. So those people that want to look this up, we've actually measured a little bit with Dr. Gary Young, who was one of the original pioneers a lot in molecular essential medicine, and spent a lot of time out in the pyramids and stuff and decoding the recipes there. So a lot of those we marinate you with oregano, thyme, whatever, but these are medical grade oils. This is not necessarily the perfume quality. So a good medical oil you can take internally as supplementation as well, which we do in capsules or food. So we're concentrating on these high degree of foods. And do you want to guess what one of the highest antioxidant, say, oxygen carrying capacity would be? Take that.
Oh, no idea. There's, grape seeds and all sorts of things. So I couldn't tell you what the best one is.
Well,
enlighten me.
Yeah, if you can imagine, it's a purple food.
Oh, okay. So lavender.
How about raw chocolate?
Raw chocolate. Yeah, the real stuff.
The real stuff, right? So one of the first things we want to do is concentrate on one of the highest foods in the world. And actually one of the best things people could be doing is actually taking raw cacao. So this is not chocolate. It's not processed. It's never been cooked. And in the original form, it is phenomenally one of the best sources of minerals and something that we call the bliss hormone. And there's something it calls P. It's a phenylalanine, but basically it's like the chemical when we become in love. We have hormones, we have chemistry, things happen. That whole law of attraction. And what this does is it ignites that. It's a catalyst for it. And so this is one of the top foods in the world. It's the highest one of them sources of magnesium, which means all these people that think they want their calcium in the cows are sadly mistaken. probably one of the worst ways to obtain any kind of nutrient. But it's getting actually into something called raw cacao. And like this is like one of the best foods ever. So there's some fantastic people out there right now that are pioneering and are on the cutting edge of not only the freedom movement but also technology. One of them is a friend of mine, David Avocado Wolf, and he's put out several different books. He's now got it to the point where he's getting to bring it down to grassroots levels using basically a NutriBullet, little upgrade from the Magic Bullet, but it's an extractor, but getting people just to putting in 1 or 2 teaspoons a day. So whether you eat these beans raw, it's becoming quite the sacred ceremonies out here. So a lot of people are getting off their addictions, they're getting off their pain medication, and you know, people that have aches and pains and stuff like that, so we're getting them on these Kangen waters and making sure that, you know, and we've got to be very careful because a lot of the cities have got fluoride, so you certainly don't want that going in faster to you, so they've got to sometimes pre-filter. But the water's important, and then what you put in your mouth is important now to do the repair work. So it takes a little bit longer, and actually we start super feeding people. So literally we get them on this raw cacao purple food because it's also very close to cannabis in the sense it's got, have you ever heard of an anamide?
Nope, can't say as I have.
But most of us have heard about cannabis and cannabinoids.
Yeah, cannabinoids, absolutely.
Yeah, this is actually like a sister to that. So virtually what it does is it stimulates our happy hormones. This is why people feel a little bit different when they actually do eat what they perceive to be chocolate. However, like Hershey's, and when they did the Dutch cocoa, what they've done is they've actually demineralized it, and they've made it actually into something that's toxic. But in the raw form, you can actually get it and grind it down into powder. And so we're getting everyone extremely excited, and we've got probably the happiest people ever. And so we can feed it instead of peanut butter, like, you know, cacao butter and chocolate to actually children first thing in the morning. So we do things like that. And again, high antioxidant foods, blueberries, all your different berry forms like that, and getting them on greens and all sorts of things. So that's the one thing. If anyone wants to see the change and get rid of the negativity on the outside of the world as they perceive it, then we clean the inside. That's the inner journey. It's not so much what's going on outside. It's coming to balance with that and realizing that there's no good. There's, in that sense, totally good, totally bad, whatever. That everyone's virtually at different variations like light bulbs, different degrees of enlightenment, so to speak. So if we go back to that and look at kind of what they call the international or universal laws, which some people call the rainbow tribes, that kind of thing, but you're bringing all the different spectrums in, and that there's some good everywhere, and that we've got to come back to really looking at what universal law is. And the basis to...
Okay, Tony, can you hear me? I couldn't unmute. It froze up here.
Yeah, I thought it was actually the computer this end, because I've got stuff going on all over the place here, and it's clicking in and out as well.
This is so much fun. You know, grow up, guys. Seriously. Yeah, this is just dumb. You know, it really is. Okay, it looks like she got disconnected, so let me just see if I can call her back in.
Excellent.
We do what we can, right? So.
Yeah, seems right, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just have to remind people what show they're listening to and get ready for the interruptions, especially when we're talking about...
Wow.
I don't even know where to tell you to start. Happy children, abenoids.
We have no idea what's going on there, but it sounds like a machete or fireworks.
Sounds like a machete or fire. Can you hear me okay?
We got anyone talking?
I'm talking. Tony, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Totally scrambled. It sounds like a semi-automatic rifle shot here.
Yeah, it still hasn't fully connected with Karen yet. It's funny, you can hear her loud and clear.
Totally garbled.
Oh.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Can hear you fine.
You can hear me fine?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, then I'll just keep going. It literally sounds like we're hearing all these fireworks, so I guess we'll have to keep the typing thing going here for a bit. Okay, so one of the things that we were talking about is that trying to get into balance, and this is practicing the universal laws. One of the things that people want to look at some of this incredible information that we're able to download you was actually, it's something called Meredith Quinn's Tribal Laws. And this talks about some of the original universal laws. So actually in the last 2 years, a lot of these documents come up in my possession, and we've been decoding them. So there are different sections in there to do with law. And it's kind of like going back, the great Musa, Moses, everything from how the beginning of the Admiralty and the Merchant Law, how that all started. Coders with Aztec code and the calendar, going back to an original system, life before colonization. So it actually is quite important. All of us come off one of the 13 original nations, or some people like to use the word bloodline. And so once we start realizing who we are, it's always traced matrilineally, is we can go down that little garden path quite nicely. The foods and everything, as we're talking about pH and bringing all these sort of things in, is that we've got to go into not only universal law, but that pertains to food. And anything that through our mouths, we always speak to the pearly gates. You want to get to heaven, to the higher laws, then we better start knowing that what we put in our mouth are quite not only
Okay, one sec, Karen. Tony, can you mute out while you're hammering on the keyboard, please? It's cutting us out. It's cutting us out here.
So those are things that we really need to look at. This whole thing about water war crimes, which we've been following for years, and knowing what that actually means. It's because the people themselves have become corrupted, or their waters have become impure. And virtually what we're doing is it's a recycling process. So when people are not healthy or in a stages of different variations of diseases, it's because they're actually composting. So in law terms, what does one want to say? You're dead to the letter of the law. You're dead to the light. People do not know who they are anymore, let alone what normal is. And it's getting to be a sad state of affairs when the abnormal becomes normal. So we kind of took about 2 years off when we'd been in Saskatoon and grew up here, and went out to what we call the Nyack Nations primarily. And for those people, if you want to do some tracking, it's near what we call Nakus. There's a bunch of hot springs out there, Revelstoke. A lot of people are familiar with the Kootenay or Slowtown area, but it's by Nelson. So in that area, it's very, very interesting because it's very protected. In fact, in between some of the mountains and the lakes, and again, they're flat fields as well. But in there are actual places where you can't get EMF or radiation. So in fact, there's just no cell phone. So we kind of like it in some of those areas, which means we're also not subjected to some of the wireless and what it does for brain damage. And it's one of the areas in the world that's known to be, if you measure consciousness or enlightenment, where some of the most enlightened people are right now, because they're able to be in those areas where they grow their own food, they're self-sustaining. So many people are off the grid or off the matrix there, that they're able to sustain themselves. And other than maybe for a little bit of, let's say, dealing with gas, not that we don't have access now to magnetic machines and all sorts of things coming in, and people with electrical cars and things like that, things run on magnetics like the Regen X or something, is that a lot of these people have been there and they protect those areas very well. And that's actually the crux of the matter, where actually most of the water is in the watersheds up there from a lot of those areas. And so it's quite interesting is that if we keep contending about the wars and stuff like that, rather than cleaning out what we've got in our own backyards and creating our own little gardens of Eden, this stuff is falling apart. And the reason it's falling apart outside is because it's not based on truth. and it's going to have its own demise. However, for each one of us, it's kind of what we start teaching now. It really doesn't matter. We will deal with things in a bigger collective way, and that everyone is off the creator. Everyone's part of this co-creation process, and that we need to look at that, what's mirroring to us, and deal with our own internal gardens, our own internal waters. And if there's a water war crime, that's because our waters are actually toxic and polluted inside. So how do you stop this war outside? Is don't buy into that. If you can look at what it is and look at how to make peace with not only these different people, but also realizing that we're all part of this and we all have a piece of the piece, so to speak. And so it's very, very important people realize that they, not that we agree with it, but there was different sets, in a way, like a caste system of people and laws and how things have been going on here. And so most people have been trying to get into the things, let's say, like the IMF funds and the Lucius Trust funds and the One People's Trust Fund. So after or those trust funds that have actually divided people. So if we learn to be self-sufficient, grow our own foods, and start cleaning up the waters, how many people actually have got water that's got pH or they're drinking?
Okay, sounds cracking up a little.
Yeah, sounding like we're having another issue. 1 sec. You're breaking up. Now gone. There we go. All right. Well, while we're waiting, we can bring Sandy in. Sandy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. I guess we're just waiting for Karen to get back. Yeah, they really don't like what we're talking about because this is the as within, so without war.
Yeah.
Getting people to solve things from within. I haven't got a big enough hammer to drive that point home with people. Everyone's so distracted looking out, and I catch myself doing it. But that's the thing is I'm aware of it, and I'm looking at the illusion from a slightly different perspective. Have we got you back, Karen? It's looking like she's back, but I'm not hearing anything.
Got me?
There you are. We brought Sandy into the call. She's a healing oils type, and I think you guys will have a nice little chat.
Hi, Karen.
Hey. Hi, how are you doing this evening?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
Oh, we're just having the best day. So you're a spice girl too, are you?
Yeah, like spices, essential oils, immune system products. I do it all.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was really listening to what you had to say. That's really cool what you're doing.
Well, we think this is probably the best way to go. If we could just oil everyone up, and if people kept, in the conclave, quit burning all the carcinogenic frankincense there and did a little essential oils, I think we'd all have a healthier planet here. So
there you go. I'm with you.
Yeah, we'd love to take all these guys, marinate them down, take Elizabeth. Take the brothers and start marinating them in like some raindrop technique, get them some with oil. I think we'd have like the whole entire planet cleared up in the universe by that.
See, I have an emotional kit. Then we can do the rejuvenation kit with those oils on. It makes them whole again. It's really cool.
Inner child, and then they're yeah. We'll get the inner child and the forgiveness going and the valor and yeah. So it's a whole specialty. What we're talking about, for those of you guys that don't know the inside dope we're kind of talking about, and there's a great specialty. One of my specialties as well, there's like a whole host of us, is that if you're not aware, you could actually take an essential oil and neutralize what you perceive to be a negative emotion.
Absolutely.
And one of the great books, if you want to look up, or on YouTube, and Carolyn's just totally awesome. And, in fact, it was when we were down in Cancun with Dr. Gary Young. Gary's a friend of mine as well. We have many things protecting those people as well. And there's some great stuff like doTERRA. There's all sorts of things. We've got Mountain Springs up here. Another one is Essential Aura, stuff like that. Is that these oils can be used to cross the blood-brain barrier, reactivate the third eye, different organs, and any kind of negative emotion. So if you want to look up a really great book or technique, it's by Dr. Karen Ann Macdonald, M-E-I-N. She's a chiropractor, and she's also got a few things on YouTube. But take someone from anger into laughter within a very short time. And there's a great oil that actually Gary Young produced from Young Living Oils, and we're actually seeing this totally change the picture here. We used to run these in our clinic, in our centers for a year here. But we just started up in Saskatoon at this little place. So if you want to go onto Facebook, you guys, you can look up what's called Soul Salon. And that means S-O-U-L, Salon, out of Saskatoon. And you're seeing a little of what we're doing there now. So you can follow us on Facebook at Karen Ann Macdonald. But that's where we're doing, that's my new little play center in the back room here. So this salon is actually going from being really toxic to they've got doing some little bit cleaner avenues in there, and then they're moving in and it's becoming into raw food, superfood things. So in the last 4 or 5 weeks since we've been there, we now have got Young Living Oils, we've got Mountain Spring Oils, Raindrop Technique, VitaFlux going, we're doing emotional release in the back, handing out enema kits, and doing raw foods in there. And so we're having just an absolute blast. But the whole thing is that there's an oil called Peace and Calming, which is one of my favorite oils in the entire world that you can make up with patchouli and orange. And it's an amazing thing, is that the oils are what actually takes the charge off the emotional field. This also, as it comes to pass, is that people pass negative emotions and they're passed on the what's called the mRNA. So just as we're doing a little DNA activation and cosmic activation, the oils excite and they neutralize negative charges, which if you're getting what we're saying, it brings you back to 0 point. It neutralizes or balances the emotional field. Once you do that, they also have, for good for viruses, bacteria, and virtually anything, from mold to candida to anything. So this is actually absolutely phenomenal. So there's an entire technique, which again, you could look up the basics of raindrop technique, and it's more of a technique, and we modified it. We actually put hot towels on people's feet. So here we take about an ounce of these beautiful oils from frankincense and myrrh to oregano to thyme to basil, and you literally can start going in. It cleans like a search and rescue mission. And it actually has the ability to, one, move through the energies of the chakras, which means we have the ability to neutralize virtually any chemical. It's one of my best forms of chelation. So I'm not sure if you guys know it, but if you take lemon essential oil, it will actually start neutralizing chlorine. Did you know that?
I did not know that. There was also a question regarding apricot kernels, and I'm trying to find it. It just came up.
Okay.
I'll check it in my Facebook link, but it was something to do with apricot kernels. So, nope, not that one. Let me just go to my own page. It might be there. I'm thinking if they were the question might have been, are they alkaline?
Yeah, one of the things too, we actually do have books that you can go to, and it really, it's kind of a difficult question. The answer, short, is has it been altered or GMO'd? So it depends where the actual, how it's come in.
Right.
So, once you put anything like Monsanto or you alter the seed or conventionally done pesticides, fungicides, suicides, whatever genocide food you got, it's been altered, it's going to be automatically acidic. And it's going to create a field or like a block in the uptake of the information. So the minute the food has been corrupted, like a computer, so we talk about foods as direct current, and it's like a computer. You're putting in information. The minute you put something in and alter that program, you're creating a whole different set of mathematical codes that your system doesn't recognize. And so it's regarded as foreign, basically. So these oils are probably the most important form. Apricot oil, grapeseed oil, and all those are very thick, viscose type of oils. So is hemp oil, for that matter.
Okay, we've lost some sound there, guys.
Seems to have lost her again.
I think we did.
Okay, Karen, we got.
Yep, and they hit you right after, Kate.
Yeah, they hit me as well, so I couldn't even unmute.
Yeah, one of the things we want to look up in here too is start looking at people getting self-sustained. The fastest way to start getting people healthy is actually to go and get the waters back to an alkaline source, putting essential oils into the waters and other things. So we've got basically lemon and peppermint and orange drops going into the waters right now. And what it's going in is it's going in and it's neutralizing some of the chlorine in the actual waters themselves, plus the chlorine that you may have ingested over the years. The other thing as well, there is an oil that Dr. Gary Young also developed called JuvaCleanse, and it's created, again, frequency-wise to start neutralizing things like mercury. Once you know how to combine foods and do it by mathematical frequencies and get into these different fields, there's another one he created called Sacred Mountain. That Sacred Mountain also protects what's called the thyroid. The thyroid is where the radiation is coming. Did you know that? That's why everyone's all concerned about their thyroid. And so this affects...
Sorry, I couldn't unmute there. Having a hell of a time with the Skype on this end. Yeah, well, again, that's the whole thing. Anytime there's radiation around, the first thing that gets attacked is the thyroid.
Right. So the thyroid is actually an organ, or it's a system, a frequency that holds the emotion of our freedom centers. So when people are being enslaved and they can't communicate properly, not only to each other, what happens is that there's different oils that we can use to actually neutralize that. And so that we're able to communicate on each level, each frequency properly. And that's for each one of us to be in alignment or atonement, or each organ is virtually like an instrument. It can be too high or too low. And so each one of them has an emotion to it as well. So we know about anger. When people are in the lower things, they can be controlled. The fear is in the third eye. And we can use sandalwood and different oils like that to actually neutralize and regenerate those different areas of us again. There is
Okay. Carry on. Okay. You coming through, Sandy?
Yeah, I'm here.
How can the universe provide it to me? We've been
Okay, Karen. Yeah, we keep getting hacked, and you get going, and then you get zapped, and you were gone for about 35 seconds again. Frustrating.
One of the things we'll do is to start utilizing these oils. It's very, very important. People start getting the potential of this kind of medicine. You can add it in, and it's available for the most part. If people have difficulty, they can also look on that website at Soul Salons, and part of the reason why is because that's where we're blogging what we're even doing. And so that's an amazing thing. Or we put it on mine specifically. So if people have questions, it's another way to reroute to us as well. Or the people there can do some different things. So it's really, really important to start looking after ourselves and realizing that we really are the best, and that things are actually happening here for the best. And part of it, too, is that this place has been quite polluted as people's internal organs have become polluted generationally. This is the first time we've had the ability to start cleaning things up and neutralizing it, everything, and putting it back in the correct order. And so this is why we're actually utilizing the idea of using home enemas. And anyone that is still anal retentive and still hasn't got the butt of this, is that most of the nobility and royalty and celebrities do this. And the reason why we do this is because it's one of the keys to longevity and immortality. What it is that you're never allowing any food or debris, and just consider it to be old information, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, left in you. That when anything comes through, it passes through you. Whether people are concerned about HAARP or just magnetic waves, it doesn't matter, because it's passing right through us right now. So anything, it's like magnetic waves, anything that's being caught in your system in any way, shape, or form is because it's not, the people haven't become enlightened, or you're not flowing in flow yet. So once we have this, you can literally, that's what ease is, and grace and flow. You can actually transmute anything, and for the benevolence of everyone. So when we're dealing with people in the system per se, it's not that they're good or bad, that's just where they are. And it's not that the system is even bad, it's just how it's being run. And that's what we're looking at from a clan position. And there were 13 original bloodlines, as we alluded to earlier, and these particular bloodlines had clan mums. And then there were 5 had clan mums on top of that, for Atlantis and New and Norway and Africa and all the Cleopatra tribes. That is the original law that was on this planet. That is still the original law that sits on the law books. And this is what's coming up right now. And people have got to learn that there's been a way that they have been enslaved, or the information has been kept from them. So when people are practicing universal law or natural law, we are in total harmony with the earth. We are in peace. We're in peace with ourselves. We're in peace with nature. We're not killing animals. We're not eating animals. Not only that, there is a venue that when people cross the laws or the boundaries that have been set out in these peace treaties or agreements, is that you can go to the Hague Court. But you would have to know what clan you're from, the creator, but which clan, which your clan mother, what tribe, and what nation you belong to. So there's really no such thing as the United Nations. That is a de facto setup that has been set up for the countries, that is being overseen in what they call the second world. The position that we're talking of, it's like becoming and spreading your angelic wings, the celestial laws, call it whatever you want, the divine laws. The right, your inherent right, is everyone has the right to become a noble, to be a savage. Even the movie Avatar was put out. How many of you guys saw Avatar besides me?
Oh, I saw it many times.
There was one of the best law briefings. It's right up there with the Wizard of Oz and the Straw Man and the social insurance number and Party in the Veil and the gold bricks of ounces of gold. Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
The movie The Matrix, right?
Yeah, I was going to share one thing that I found absolutely critical within The Wizard of Oz, and it was the scene just before the witch got melted. And she made a statement, and this was very profound for me. The last to go will see the first 3 go before them. Mm-hmm. And she was talking about the straw man, i.e. the fiction legal name, the empty, the one devoid of heart compassion. Mm-hmm. So you have to fill up the passion. And the third one had to lose the fear. So right. You had to lose your straw man fiction, get a heart, and lose the fear. And you got to see those 3 go.
Right.
The last to go, in other words, to leave Oz. You got to get rid of those 3.
Yeah, and that's a real simple lesson. Actually, my girlfriend is Karen Spurley, so if you guys want to see the type of energy that we play with, Dr. Richard Bartlett did 2 books, pardon me. One is called Matrix Energetics, the other one's the Physics of Miracles. But Karen Spurling was one of the mainstays there that has done over probably 300 play shops, as we call them. We don't work. And Matrix Energetics is kind of, to me, the next kind of level beyond quantum touch, Reiki, body talk, which body means dead anyway. And a lot of these groups have got too, like from secret initiations to symbols to so masonically run to they get all naked to like, I mean, we've heard all the weird things already. But when we did a little bit with Karen Sperling, actually, she was a Warner from the Warner Brothers. And those are some of the people that actually put those movies together that we've had the pleasure to be with. But the movie Avatar, when it came out, it says in the very first few minutes, it's really hard to kill one of the Na'vi or Anishinaabe or a savage. And the word to be a savage is correct, a noble savage. Nobility is one, savage means free. And so that is the actual term, that we are noble savages. And that we are not a private person or a public person. We are not a slave. Nor are we the third world classification called an inhabitant, which is also regarded as a sea monster in law. And so once you actually know who you are, you get everything back. And part of it is realizing that all that stuff, the duality, the polarity, we go across, we're on a soul journey. We're behind wheels and vehicles and get stopped by people in uniforms and without any government ID. And we know how to get people in because we're in peace. We actually hold those peace treaties, and that's part of when we talk about Bear Clan or we talk about Sirius or Star Nations, that's what we're talking about. And so those particular things that run on the flag and the
Yep, looks like we've lost that connection again, so that might be an opportunity to speak on that one, Kate. I couldn't for a second. I can now. Carry on.
Okay. Follow up on which part there that Karen was talking about. I'm just going to see about getting her back.
Yeah, IDs, losing the straw man, that sort of.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've talked about that probably. I don't know, every show. Lose the name, win the game. What Karen's talking about, very, very clearly, and that's the thing too. So I was trying to think of something that would be suited for, everyone's talking about, well, I'm a sovereign, or I'm a free man, or I'm this, or I'm that, and you know what? Noble savage absolutely fits with me. Noble freedom, noble freedom, no papal bull freedom. So that makes complete sense to me. Karen, we lost you at flag.
How's that? We're here?
Yeah, you're there. We lost you at flag.
We're at the flag. Okay. There was something people presumed to be over these areas called what they got at one point was the British Columbia flag. So you kind of know back what the law of the flags are and the law of ships and how this stuff all works. Pirate flags, everyone's got a flag. It's like, how is this stuff actually going back to? And one of the things, too, is that the flag that flies over those lands was actually an agreement. And a lot of these agreements, because English is not the language, and you go back to different things, like you can see the obelisks in what's called the Aztec stone in the temple wall in Mexico City. There's also one in Central Park, and it's the pink obelisk with the Cleopatra tribes. That's where these treaty markers have been moved. So all these like obelisks and hieroglyphics and those 13 different positional stones, I mean, that's why these things have been carted from Egypt, or those different nations all the way over here, is their territorial stones. And so in the language, they were done in basically a Coptic Greek and a Medieval Greek, and one of the languages was a Cam language, which is a very specific language. And by the way, a lot of the indigenous people, let's say like Meredith Quinn, was able to actually decode that because they knew that language because it was part of their language. And because they were part of the original tribes here. So whether you want to start thinking of lost tribes of Israel or wherever they were, and Cleopatra and Bear and all that, they're here. But that flag is basically an agreement. And so for those of you that really want to see what this is about, not that we like the word Aboriginal, it means we're all original, and that people are assuming they're away from it, but the tag you would get was from a Winston Shrout seminar. And that seminar was held in Kelowna, which is in basically what people consider to be the Okanagan area, right next to us. It's about 4 hours away. And so Winston was brought there, and in part 3, 4, and 5, besides one of my friends, Galen Ray, you'll actually hear them mentioning me way back when they were even at the Winston Throat stuff back then in our health center. But in part 3, 4, and 5, they talk about the explanation of what it means. And so the colonists, i.e. the descendants of the Roman Empire, the Greeks, the Romanicus, all those came over here with the agreement and struck a deal with basically Queen Victoria. And that stands in the British Chancellery. And that agreement is that everyone's to live here by the great law of peace. And that peace treaty is recognized as either, sometimes people call it the Camel's Eye, the Eagle Bull, or the Eye of Isis Treaty. Either way, it's the same virtual thing. All the 13 nations have their different things, and so those of us that are white, and we go back to Cleopatra, Saxons, or Mercia or Northumbria, those treaties for us are called the Noah's Ark. And when you learn about Ark and Stargate, and then we get into some really cool stuff, it means we've kept our covenant, a covenant people. We've kept the universal law, and that we know who we are. And so people start getting...
They're messing with us again, Karen. You're breaking up, and my Skype's getting hacked here, so that's probably got more to do with it than your end.
Well, part of it, too, is what we're looking at, is that we've got to do our internal processing. We all have to do that. And in order for anyone, you cannot save anyone, you cannot love anyone. And love is a vibration. That's fourth dimension. That's the heart. That's Venus. That's love. If people cannot love themselves, they cannot love one another. That's what people are literally starving for, is to be loved, to be at peace. Peace is another dimension as well. But to have peace with each and every part of you, each organ is functioning, you can communicate then with other beings. And that's a huge thing that we have to do. We have to be able to love ourselves and love those around us. And that is virtually the key. We have the combination. There is no secret. And so we have to get past that and start looking after ourselves better and the areas that we are. It's unnatural to be in the cities. It's unnatural to be paying for food. It's unnatural to be working, not even from 9 to 5. We have to go back to what kind of a community that we have created here. And so that's what we've done in those areas. We've gone back and we have honored that law of the flag. We're one of the few people that is commerce free, because we know that we can actually go right now and start charging everyone for what they've done. What these different people have done, and that's going to include like 90, probably some percent of the population, are actually arrestable right now, because they have violated all those peace agreements themselves and their ancestors that they agreed to. And that ignorance of the law is virtually no excuse. And so we have to get back, instead of pointing the fingers at what's out there, is what's going on inside of us. And that be at peace and at love with all of this. And one thing, the difference between life and death is literally having what pH level you're at. Having the best foods ever. You're better to have a few pieces of something that's nutrition than paying for garbage. There isn't any reason that most people cannot go and find someone in the community and make some sort of arrangement to eat for free. Because someone's got their gift, if they're the best kale grower, or you might be one of the best radio interviewers, right? With the best listeners ever, right?
Well, I'd go with the best listeners, you know. that one I'll take. So,
but we all have gifts, right? And so this is where, grace steps in. And so we wanted to have this vision of, let's have the best lands ever. Like out of the prairies here, it's like Monsanto, like hell. But we do know how to neutralize it down the road. So, we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here yet. But in this so me not using a driver's license because we're not the driver, and we don't file taxes, and we don't do any of that. And the cool thing is we have the blessing, actually, we finally got some of this stuff straightened up after years, is that a lot of people are being incarcerated, and they're being arrested, breaking the law. But it was quite funny because there was this really nice man that came up, terrorist, and we dealt with it. And he, came up to me, and we went down to the Saskatoon City Police Station, but not before we, got him into discussing the role of what a peacekeeper was, and also that we don't file taxes, and we realized what little game was being played here. So we shook hands, and we weren't talking to the Saskatoon City Police. We don't talk to the dead. And so he was actually very good. We went down, the whole matter was cleared up, and he says, "You're unarrestable and you're unwarrantable. And we can't find anything on you. There's apparently no record of you." And so other than a brief incident which will have to be dealt with, because someone went and you don't touch us because we would allow pat-downs, and, it's against my, we don't allow anyone to do things like that. So, other than we had to be subjected to, against our consent and will, and agreement was being touched, and when the girls, Nicole patted me down briefly, and again, it's all on camera, it can be dealt with, in an international venue, because again, these are what's considered between nation to nation, is that the complaint will go to the head court. It's not going to go to anything else less than that, because those are not our courts. And so people really have to rise up to the occasion and actually find out what those head courts and peace agreements are. And that's how we can develop peaceful communities, with peace within ourselves. And then the information is gifted to the people on how to do this. And so it's an amazing thing. I'm reminded of what was on his crest or Dakota arms, or the patch that he wears. Those of us that have things like Lucic or McDonald or whatever, we already know that they had an idea of clan, where Genesis genetic bloodlines were. And so people can trace this through what's called the 7 Daughters of Eve. And so they can look up Brian Sykes or Oxford University and check their own bloodline. That's for each one of us to do. You better know where you come from, because that's your inheritance law. So you don't need secreted little trust accounts and funds. Basically, you can look after yourself and not being babysat by someone else. I'm sure it would be much better and much more advantageous that we start helping people and start forgiving people and start teaching them about what love actually is. So one of the things, too, is if you don't want to be part of the corporation, then we just cut up all our cards that were not mine. Someone is using someone else's cards. If we want a card, we'll make our own. But at this point, it's not required. We don't need to deforest anything. We certainly don't need any more plastic on the planet on here. And so what we want to do is get people back into balance with what they're doing. And like the emotional processing is part of it, is realizing that people are worthy, realizing people that have power and what they can do that, and that we don't stand under or understand anyone. So when we went to the movie and saw actually Avatar, it actually is a whole briefing actually about clan mothers in there. It's a beautiful law briefing actually. And it talks about the tree of life in there. It talks about the power of a clan mother. And that when you go back into the matrilineal system, and really Elizabeth is basically like a white race or white tribal. So she's like a white race clan mom, and those guys are basically responding to their clan mom. And so they don't have to be part of it, and they can choose where they want to be. But that's where they took their allegiance and their oath to, and that actually we have a peace agreement between us. And so that goes back thousands and thousands of years. So a lot of those flags go back thousands and thousands of years, going back to, beyond Egyptian times and stuff too. So one of the things that when we're looking at Avatar, one of the books they talked about was the book of Navai, throwing that out. They talk about moving from the fifth dimension or to different peaceful, what does it look like? And so one of the things too is there was a clan woman there. She's the one that ruled the entire clan there. They transferred like a Stargate or a gatekeeper or an angelic. If you speak the angelic or the right words, you get past those people that are really gatekeepers. And you better be able to do it with love, honor, and respect. Because we're here for the benevolence of all. We're here to assist and support that individual, whether he's in a uniform or she's in a uniform or not, to the point that we shouldn't have to have any of that on this planet if one was in peace themselves and not being from, like you said, a fear-driven, stance themselves. And so those are where different things like going back to the original oils like frankincense and myrrh actually allow you to communicate and allow you not to be in fear. It doesn't really matter. We can neutralize anything at this point. We have the technology that we play with radionics and our scio biofeedback that we can pick up plutonium and radiation or whatever and neutralize it. It's just the energy signature. And we can do all sorts of very, very cool stuff. A lot of these things that are happening, the pole shift, it's about each one of us coming through these time periods. It's not a matter of survival, it's a matter of survival. And so we literally have got the best things ever. And so all these type of things that have been, stored away, we asked for actually the release of all this information documents. And we sent my papers off to the actual Hague Court back the end of November, and then again some stuff was hand delivered in actually 12/12/12, by the way. It went in, and so that's what we want to see as a restoration of putting things back into place. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at. If you guys have any questions on that, but I mean, this is what we can look at. Is that we can look at, like as in Anastasia, when they talked about FEMA camps and stuff along that line, they talked about a community and people that were actually in a prison and didn't even realize they were in a prison. And they started teaching these people how to garden these prisoners, kind of like the prison planet, as Alex Jones says here. But anyway, what they did is they started going back and gardening again, and they created their own Garden of Eden, and they became so healthy. Not only that, they had some of the best foods ever, and they sustained the entire communities around them. And then it got to the point that they didn't want the prison walls taken down and the fences down because they created the Garden of Eden, and they didn't want anyone to come in and wreck it anymore. And they didn't want to leave what they created and co-created there. And part of that is all of us looking at that. We're looking at community gardens. Some people call it guerrilla gardening, but there's no necessity. There's great movies out now called Zero Impact Man. I mean, people that lived in New York City and came totally unplugged off the grid.
It broke up again.
Okay. That's interesting stuff. We've got a question here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, here, just a sec, Karen. I got some individual here I've been going back and forth with while you're talking. I'm going to save him the embarrassment of saying a last name, but Tim, let me share something with you, my friend. One, I don't go for ratings. By the way, mind your ears, guys, because there's going to be some intent behind this one. Tim's going to feel this. Okay. Yeah, Tim, you're a fuckwad, because when you come on, Facebook and you decide to write something directly to me, I take that as a personal conversation. And when you accuse someone, a friend of mine, such as Karen, as being poisoned without backing anything up. Yeah, still typing, are you? Okay. One, my friend, you carry ID, which makes you a fucking dead man walking zombie, okay? You are sleeping with the whore of Babylon because you carry the mark of the beast, okay? That's what the mark of the beast is. So I'm going to be very blunt with you. And come from my brain, please, because it'd probably be the first decent thing you'd eat that would actually give you something other than that fear porn shit that you're throwing at me. So tell you what, Tim, go find yourself a life. By the way, for those looking, it's Tim Earl on Facebook. That's EARL. So I'll make sure that I copy and paste all of these. Okay, and you just got yourself famous. No, Tim, I don't go for ratings. If I wanted that, I'd be. Let me see. Oh, you're in the Alex Jones group. I would actually ask Anger Jones to come on if I wanted ratings. But quite frankly, I am not really into fear porn. So do me a favor. Lose the ID. Come back to the living. Okay? And save your angry posts for somebody else. Go bother Alex and see if he'll tolerate your nonsense. Anyway, sorry, Karen. Carry on.
Actually, it's really interesting. The whole thing, too, about being cleaned out and having to prove something, we don't have to prove anything. It's all about what we're doing. Every soul or every individual is monitored and accountable. And right down to every barcode is known. And when you got smart meters and you've got satellites, everything's known. Whether you want to do your Akashic records inside and out, this is what it is. It was for monitoring to see if people could be looked after or to be able to be self-sustained. And that's a really easy thing to do. So we're probably actually one of the healthiest people we do know because we do have the technology and the toys. And there are people out there that have done a lot of things, the Disclosure Project and stuff like that. We have to look at providing solutions. And part of that is cleaning up the planet and the messes that we have all contributed to over the years. And it's incumbent upon us to clean it up. So actually, poisons, not at all. There isn't too much in my system there.
Well, I just one more little note here.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. This guy's not even on my friends list. You know, I generally don't waste time with people that don't even have the decency to do that. But you know, just the pictures alone. You know, what's the photograph that he's got? He's got all these military boys hanging around a big military truck. So I just suggested he go hang out with his friends that like to play with guns and kill children around the world. I have nothing but pity for him at this point. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that.
Well, you know, we just want to share the love and stuff, but, you know, that's the type
Absolutely.
of thing we do that if anyone's disturbing our peace, we just remove them. So
Yeah.
It's very easy. They get blocked and they get unfriended. So, I mean, it's our wall.
Well, you know, that's the thing. If it,
Yeah.
you know, I would have appreciated at least having the courtesy if you're going to have a conversation with me. You know, add a friend first, and that way I'll treat you as an equal. Prior to that, or other than that, you're nothing but a shill in my world. So, Tim Earl, you are a fear porn shill for me. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I doubt you'll be tuning in anymore.
Now, part of this too, you know, which is actually kind of, you know, how we deal with things as well. And we just can send the love, but, you know, allow these people they've got to be cleaned out and realize, you know, the basic thing my dad ever told me is that if it's not true and it's not spiritually uplifting to someone else, then not say anything. And so we've come to a thing, we were talking a little bit about the medicine wheel and in the sweat and talking circles and sharing circles and healing circles, is that rather than the talking stick, we created a talking loop now. But anyway, everything's back to the loop. They just love me here. They don't know where we came from other than we told them to create it directly. And they believe it now. They know it. And one of the things, too, is that we're doing stuff, let's say, even our stuff with hemp. And, you know, for people who've got to be fairly cleaned out to go into that. But you've got to create your Garden of Eden, and you've got to be able to stand up and make sure that it's protected and reserved. And so people that haven't got anything, you know, virtually nice to say, and if you do not have anything to add, and in fact come up with something better or something you think that's going to be actually helpful or benevolent, then don't say anything at all. And so a lot of times people, if they're coming up to criticize, don't. Because one, they may not have the basis. Two, they don't have the experiences we do. And three, is that unless you've got a better solution, and if you've got something better, then you want to come at it and make a friend. And it's all about keeping peace. So the minute someone, let's say, goes to disturb it, They can be removed. And it's going to be that easy. People are not going to be staying on the planet that are not at least at love and at peace. And so, because a lot of people were not aware of it, these are easy to find. You can go to, like I said, Tribal Laws. Meredith Quinn is a great one. Universal Laws, the foundation to international law. The foundation. We're going to be one of the guest speakers again, actually coming up on the 22nd. There's a friend of mine, David Farman. I'm not sure if you're aware of alchemy events, sometimes called the Alien Shift.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yep. So there's actually, this is a huge, there's 12 of us and then 33. It's like one of the biggest think tanks actually coming up here. And so people like Jordan Maxwell, myself, there's one of the princesses, 2 princesses are actually in that as well, will be in there. People from the Disclosure Project, actually Dr. Tony Minavero is going to be in Santos as part of it. So a lot of us are coming in. We got
again. Okay, not hearing you, Karen. I'm not.
Yeah.
And then you broke.
Karen dropped off, and then you dropped off after.
We're here.
We're back.
Anyway, these are the type of people that we're able to back this information. So when we're talking about where's that temple or that treaty, you can go Google it right on, like, Pink Obelisk, and go find out it's in Central Park and go read the hieroglyphics, because we did. It's actually quite cool. And so the medicine wheel is virtually what...
Yeah, you dropped off again there. You back?
There we go. Yeah, there we go again.
Cut off completely.
Yeah.
each other.
Oh, Karen, you said medicine wheel and you got hacked off again.
The medicine wheel is actually international law. So if people want to start learning about what Indian means, Indian is not a red color skin. It's a word to mean savage or indigenous. And Indian translates to those with the Creator, i.e. those not with God. God is an Old English term that was put in, and it means let evil or chaos take its course. Hence, in God we trust. We are not part of the God crew. God and Goddess, again, are a caste system like king or king, or prince or princess. It's part of the private person sector. And so once you learn that and what the terms are, and when the ISIS treaty went back to 408, there was an unconditional surrender. Even though there was no war, the Roman Empire, i.e. the Greek Romanicus and Greek royalty, hiding up there in what you call Italy and in the Vatican, and all their papal bulls, are actually part of the... And this is where we're from, a very different venue. We realize a lot of people, this is new information, and that doesn't mean that it's incorrect, and that we may not have dotted all our I's and crossed our T's yet, but we aren't trying. We're actually doing something. So we don't sit back and complain. We actually put forth a proclamation. And we put forth also the solutions within that we deemed what we were going to be doing. And so part of what that was in that paper was all release of all the Vatican documents, was actually in my papers that they received 6-7 weeks ago. These different people at the Hague Court, and also to Elizabeth, and also went to the Oath Keepers as well. So, and then we have to, put a few things in. But unless you know what this is, the definitions of what sovereignty, how many caste systems of sovereignty, how many classifications of private there are, that's not where we want to be. And we prepare to have our freedoms and to be in peace with each and every sentient being on this planet or the universe and intergalactic well. And so this is something that will be addressed. And if you look at actually, the people that we're dealing with are coming up here that have information to do, let's say, with neutralizing things like HARP and the free energy and what we're doing. The other thing, too, is when we work with things like essential oils, and we've worked with people from Gary Young to Winston Trout to, there's a whole slew of people, Len Horowitz, and, we've been, David Wolf and getting stuff off the Seam Harriman. We've actually had that, or if we have questions, we send something to these people or to David Wilcox. It's incumbent to be healthy. And the people that will be dealt with, there's actually a court system, which most people are not aware of either. It can be convened by the 13 original courts. You find out about the new divine courts as well. That most people, this is not taught in legalese. This is not taught to the barristers and solicitors. And this is very, very rare information a lot of people haven't had the privilege to see yet. And we don't think it should be a privilege. We think it should be something that's available to everyone. So that is something that we did. We had all this, as you should see, everything that was on the floor the other day when we showed you is now in binders. And so there were 48 sections, roughly, 11 and some pages.
I was going to say, I saw the papers. That was a lot of stuff to sort out between yesterday and now. Wow, you guys are busy.
We did most of that. That was all me. My gosh, you have no idea when we go clean homes, too. Get them resorted. It's always fun to be there. But we just put those sections back together. So what the Chinook and the Canupa, what the peace is, it's an international treaty. It's a treaty that's but entered into the Hague. And that's what certain peoples are to live by. And there's very few originals that know this kind of information. This is the kind of stuff that happened at Gustafson Lake and at Wounded Knee and all those places, and the witch hunt and the crusades and the slaughters and all those things that were happening are happening now. And most people don't realize there were people that were surrounded actually by the people working with the RCMP up by Gustafson Lake, north of Kamloops in that area, and they were surrounded and under siege for practicing some of the original things. That's why these ceremonies were made illegal, because this is the basis to basically what military intelligence is. It was the original peoples that still had this knowledge. And that is everything from time travel to moving with the spirit to Pandora's plague. I think you remember probably in Avatar that they flew to Project Pandora and all that. Okay, Project Pandora, for example, is, when you get all your CIA and all that stuff, is all referred to as the Pandora's plague or jar or St. John's divine prayer. Okay, so there are people that have not been very benevolent over the years. So a lot of this stuff goes back to some of these creation stories and stuff like this. It goes back to things that were in some of these books. And so from 408, I think the first set of books that were corrupted that we could find was like 451, and then redone and redone and redone and put into some King's version or something. But it goes back into this to go with the mathematical or the serpent and the original motifs of ancient drawings. That's what they call the wampum belts or the beadings and stuff like that. These are actually the peace treaties that these people put into belts. So you can actually get a lot of this information under wampum belts. This is some of the original ways clans ran or governments ran. And so the CAM language and stuff like that was very, very specific too. The books that we have are phenomenal. We have scanned each and every document of these. So if people want to go to Facebook, and they're on Meredith and Universal Laws, there's a little bit there. There's also one of the guys who's called Roger Nelson. He's at Sacred Sites and Shrines. He's also done the Blue Grid. He's also done the Medicine Wheel, the ley lines, and all the stuff to do with some great books on Glastonbury and stuff like that. Don't hedge off these guys. And he did a lot of those different information and getting them out there.
Could you?
But a lot of it.
Could you just send that information across again on the medicine wheel?
Yeah, the medicine wheel is actually, again, if you also go and you check up Star Nations and the medicine wheel and look at Lakota, usually it's Dakota, it's the Dakota Proclamation, actually, and that's what Meredith Quinn was from. So these indigenous clans were from some of the original tribes, and so they kept all their information and records together. So the books we have have all basically been through one translation that we're dealing with right now. So Venus or the Eagle Clan, stuff like that, but they used to call, not that we use those words, but women of the Great Spirit is actually what we're referring to. And so a lot of this stuff came when people tried to get, they couldn't look after themselves and they became enslaved and under the sovereigns in here. But the actual treaties and stuff, and actually, if you know about exopolitics, what Alfred Weber and Kevin Annette is now exposing, we've been dealing and talking with these people as well. This is a kind of what we call the Great Migration as well, and a lot of this information that for each of us to be doing here. And so these passages and stuff were in different books called Books of the War of the Lord, and it talks about everything from the Israeli tribes and scholars and taught them about the angels, which were called the women of the Great Spirit, otherwise we call our clan women clan mothers. And so this goes back into when the indigenous tribes, let's say, were doing the Dakota winter count dances. And so we've been part of that out in the Syncrenicity. If we listen to what they're chanting, if you want to say, in their powwows with their drums, it sounds like Hebrew. So when we're actually singing here, I'm going, oh wow, this is very cool. I said, how come all these good people are like speaking Hebrew here? Because we know some of it.
There's a couple of things I'd like to just touch
base. Ho. Yep. Hey ho. Yahweh, hey yo. And I'm going, Yahweh. I went, wow, how come they all got this in their language? Because they have the original languages. And I think that's something that people don't realize. This is very, very huge.
No, it's interesting you mentioned. It's interesting you were talking about that. So I was speaking to somebody else today. I referenced this information, both the medicine wheel and a series of books called the Voyages or Voyages series by Ashana Dean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read some of those books, and just wondered if you were in touch with Ashana and in tune with her information or not.
Actually, she was up in Saskatoon years ago, and actually, that's one of the few things I actually walked out of. There's actually a lot of that stuff when she was down on the floor going some trance thing or whatever was a little too much drama for me. But it wasn't anything new. We were told about going there to do with ley lines and stuff, and she went into some sort of, it was just, like I said, it was the drama queen sort of thing. And a lot of this is not where we wanted to be, nor soliciting for funds and donations there. That's what they were doing. And in fact, they couldn't handle some of the information we're talking about, but really there wasn't anything. I mean, at that point, we knew what a dumb was, we knew what FEMA camps were, we knew what aliens were grading ET, and I mean, that's all she said. And anything trying to assist people was not of any benevolence that we could see. So one of the things we certainly didn't like at that point is that they wouldn't let anyone out of that room, and they wanted them to have a little, it was like a mind control thing. And of course, we recognize this type of thing, and so that's the last thing it has any effect on me for. But that was the last time and the only time we've actually been in the room with her for a couple hours, and like I said, we kind of walked out of what was happening and stuff, and we just stick around after that.
Yes.
Kind of what was going.
Having read the Voyager books and the information with the Azurite Templars, etc., and all the different interdimensional aspects, there was some interesting information there, but there was also what I noted as to be several points that were completely wrong.
Absolutely.
So I know what you're saying on that scroll alone, and especially what I found most amazing of all of it was all to do with what she was mentioning about vaccinations and medicines and medical pharmacy information. It was like I was shocked when I actually heard. Obviously, she hadn't looked, but there you go.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, too, people have to look at is that the vaccine program and all those things, and you can remember, I mean, we hung out with people, and I know how angry, like, you get Len Horowitz and all those guys. Say from having biofeedback, to having people like David Wolf, to having people like Charles Holmes with Conscious Planet, and those guys providing the food and everything for us, and the hemp and everything. Those men and those brothers and sisters have kept us going. And one of the things, too, is going back to here, like when you're talking about vaccine programs, is getting educated. Having been with Mary Toko and different things along that line, Joel Lord, Jane Burgermeister. Burger, by the way, anything we start seeing brown, bear, anything like that has to do with Bear Clan as a rule. Weisberger, BER, you know, Goldilocks and the Seven Bears, all that kind of stuff. Goldilocks and the Seven Dwarfs, Seven Sisters, the Pleiades, all that ties into this kind of information. And so a lot of those things, when you're talking about the vaccine program, we were a nurse for like 13, 14 years in neonatal intensive care in Saskatoon at the Royal University Hospital for years. We learned what things kind of do. We know what it's like. We've been through those programs. But there is some better ways to do things. And I think that's one of the things, too, is that there are very few people that actually know what these laws are. And that the people, it's like, when you're saying the dead burying the dead, I went, this isn't normal. It's about not being enslaved and knowing that the time is now that we can actually make those changes. This is like the best time ever. We've been out in the teepees and we've been, you know, we've slept in a teepee too. We've been in a cabin too. We've been in the best places ever. And we still want to create something, a living, biodynamic, living, breathing home. Getting hempcrete instead of concrete. You know, knowing what normal is again. And so, yes, there's an agenda. We all know what the agenda is, but we can also transmute it into something that's going to be benevolent for people. And almost like a mom. I mean, the people have poisoned up. How many people are actually composting right now out there?
Well, speaking of getting back to the inner healing, I was hoping to get Sandy on for a few minutes anyway, talking about the healing oils that she's got that are second to none on the planet. I think you'll be rather intrigued. Sandy. Have we still got Sandy? Sandy.
We'd actually be very interested in a lot of those plants and stuff and oils. There's some great ones we have in our area at Flying Cow out in Winlaw. And again, it's an art to making medical grade. And having been there and done some distilling. So where would her oils be coming off of? Is she actually...
well, she's not in the call right now, so I'm just going to get her to call back in. Oops. She must have just dropped off. I just introed you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, it's interesting that you actually mentioned where they come from, because they're traditional Lakota recipes and techniques that actually produce the oils, and they're some of the most pure oils on the planet. And I kid you not, these things are off the charts. And yes, obviously we've looked at natural living and young living, and various other oils, and these things are just going off the scale. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I think the thing too is that it has to do with hertz and frequencies. It has to do with intent. It has to do with who created and stuff like that too. We use actually a guy, is Tony Neves as well. He's with Mountain Springs, and his email is a7montana@hotmail.com. And Tony Neves with Mountain Springs is out there close to Canmore and Banff. And, I mean, these are people, too, that access some of the best oils ever in the world,
Yep.
There's a lot of really good things out there, but also getting the quality and the frequency. And a lot of stuff to do in the Dakotas and stuff like that. I mean, there's some great plants everywhere. but we got to go to where those plants are. And back then, one of the best things for food, and what people call like free trade, was basically the food. Cacao was one of the big ones. So with hemp, we got to go back to looking at growing the hemp here. I think that's really, that's really huge. We really got to go back to going back to the circles and going back to all this stuff. I think once some of the people start reading some of the stuff that we did, we were so excited to get this kind of information as to what some of these indigenous peoples, and again, Indian being those practicing the Creator's ways, and not everyone is doing that at this point. But we've got a lot of the information. We've been sharing it wherever we can. And so when we start practicing in different ways and living it, you become that living light. That oils are so important. We can actually move a spine with them. It's amazing. It's like interdimensional travel. You can open up portals or gateways or paths.
Well, just for reference on that, I mean, when they say Jesus, just for example, it's a bit of allegory, but I'll throw it in there anyway. When they say theoretically, Jesus was given gold, frankincense, and myrrh, the allegorical aspect is that he was given boxes of metal, but no, it was actually oils, and he was in.
You're cutting up.
Yeah, you were breaking up there, Tony. You said frankincense, gold, and myrrh. Allegorical, then you broke up.
Yeah, he was actually anointing himself with frankincense, gold, frankincense, gold, and myrrh, basically. And this is the sort of allegorical response that most people think of as boxes of metal. It wasn't, it was oils, and it's the sacred information within those oils and the activation codes.
It contains, absolutely, and the purity is essential. One of the things, too, like when in dealing with David Wolf, and there's a few of us, David Hudson, David Wolf, Don Carter's another.
Okay, we lost you when you said David. Okay, just to reiterate, the sort of things that we're saying, these oils, people, are the real deal. When you understand the power of oils and frequency, and when you understand that all of your body's organs resonate at different frequencies, and each frequency can actually be purified to an incredible degree with these oils that do indeed cross the blood-brain barrier and have incredible, absolutely flipping staggering results. And there's no side effects. I mean, you look at any medicine on the market and you get a shitload of side effects. You can pick any oil on the planet, you don't have any side effects as long as you're sensible. And it's all pure. It's all pure vitamins, minerals, supplements, enzymes, electrolytes. Just the stuff in these oils is just incredible. And wow, where do we even begin with that subject? It's huge. But no, I believe, in fact, I'm not sure what the actual name was. I think it's native nutrients, but if you go to Syncrenicity.com, you'll find Sandy's site, and the stuff on there is, I can say without any doubt whatsoever, that stuff is some of the best stuff on the planet. Have we got anybody else back in this communication yet? Okay, let's go to question number 2. Is anybody else in the chat room? Can anybody give me a confirmation that they can hear me in the chat room? I've got complete radio silence written in there, apparently, and nothing else seems to be. So, am I on air or am I not? Hello. Okay, just for reference, we were talking about some pretty powerful stuff that are really oils, guys, and this is probably why they've just knocked us completely off. Anyone hearing? So, I'm just obviously asking a question there in the chat room to see if there's some kind of response, because like I say, we're talking about some pretty powerful healing solutions here, guys. I can hear, so we have a confirmation that somebody's hearing me somewhere. Great, wonderful. Well, I'll carry on with that then. Yeah, until Kate returns. But
yeah, I just got back.
My God, oils just like off the charts. If people
Tony?
only knew.
Tony?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm just letting you know
if
that
people only knew the power of oils. Let me give you an example. For example, if you are taking antibiotics, I mean, most people would think, oh, well, I've got to go and take some antibiotics, got septicemia or toothache or whatever it is. And as soon as you start taking antibiotics, you're wiping out the gut flora, just for one example, in your body, because you're wiping out the probiotics as well as the other bacteria that were within your body. So if you are not taking a course of probiotics after you've taken the antibiotics, your gut flora is going to be destroyed to the point where you can't absorb the vitamins, minerals, nutrients, etc. within the food that you're eating. And this comes back to, it could be microwave food, you know, the enzymes destroyed or whatever. There's many different aspects towards all of this and how it works together. But if you were to take small vegetable capsules, a few drops of thieves, which is called thieves because it's a blend of 4 different oils, it's actually called thieves. This will wipe out the bubonic plague. And there was a whole group of thieves that were going around to people that were dying of the plague, and they were robbing the houses. And basically, the judge asked them when they finally caught them, how did you not get the plague? And they said, well, we were taking these 4 oils, put them together in a face mask, and then it would annihilate any bacteria, plague, or whatever else that was coming through the face mask. And therefore, after those guys that got caught, at that time, it was called thieves. And that's a blend of, basically there's, I can't remember all the oils in there, but there's of 5. Them are clove oil for one. Trust me to try and remember exactly, but it's a blend of 4 oils. You can find it all over the internet. But
actually, it's 5.
yeah, so if you take
I don't even know if Tony can hear us. Tony?
Thieves oil, 2 drops of clove oil, just to boost up on the clove, because cloves are over 1 million on the ORAC scale. Do a little bit of research, you can find out all the information on that. And a couple of drops of carrier oil, such as olive oil or coconut oil or whatever. And, Bob's your uncle. A couple of them a day, and you'll wipe out
I don't think he can hear us, Kate.
All sorts of different things.
I think so.
And you won't affect your gut flora, because it's actually beneficial for the body. It's not negative. You're building up your enzymes in your body, you're building up the proteins that produce your immune system, whereas the chemtrails are wiping them out with barium, aluminium, etc. And also, that's a non-stupid thing, you want to go there right now.
I get a hold of them. Tony!
Yeah, lots of beneficial things that can be brought through from oils.
Can you hear me, John?
And it's amazing.
John, can you hear me?
The royal families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all the elites have been using oils from way back when. You will not find
I don't think Tony can
one
hear
of
us.
them touching a pharmaceutical, chemical, poisonous drug.
Yeah, Tony.
You might get the odd 1 or 2 going for an X-ray to find out if they broke the right leg or something, but short of that,
they can hear us out there too.
It's
only Tony can't hear.
We've been sold a crock. We've been sold a crock on so many different levels. It's funny.
That's a Tony Z show.
It's way beyond funny. But there you go.
Tony.
So I've either got a stunned Kate and a guest on at the moment, or nobody saying anything.
We're trying to talk, Tony.
Is anybody there who can say hi?
Tony, hello.
Okay, I guess we're still on our own. So yeah, read the oils. Amazing different.
Tony.
Trying to talk to me. Well, I cannot hear anything.
Tony.
Thank you for the feedback.
Okay, well, maybe I just I just put his mic on hold. So anyway, I didn't want to do that to him, but this is absolute craziness. Hello, John. Welcome back, Karen. I'll see what I can do about sorting Tony out. So from my end here, he's obviously not hearing us, which is just another little bit of a hack fest that they're having. Wow, this is a whole new new level of fun we're playing, right? Let's make
they did something different because I just completely went out and I don't ever go out. So something happened.
Well, what I'll do is we'll pick up maybe a little bit just what I was talking about. Seed oil, by the way, is 5 oils. So basically, we've studied with this, and it actually has got the ability to neutralize some of the chemtrails. And again, there isn't anything that we don't have. This is not about killing or going to war with any being, any police force, any virus or bacteria. It's about us raising our vibration or frequency and all living together nicely. But it's virtually clove oil, lemon oil, cinnamon bark, eucalyptus, and rosemary. And a lot of those are why we put them into the enema solutions with MMS and all sorts of things. So the one thing I wanted to kind of bring back to that is the oils were designed for biological warfare as well. So define that however we want. Is it basically to go in and raise up our vibration so that we're able to commune nicely self to self.
Some therapy, Horowitz.
And a lot of this stuff too, I know Len Horowitz got into a lot of that kind of stuff, but, quite frankly, a lot of those people are very, very angry themselves these days. And so I remember dealing with Len years ago here. So one of the things that we need to do, and I just wanted to go back to this whole idea of gifting and why these were talked about here. The word Indian or indigenous meant lost in Dios, those without God. And part of it, that's where the term came, Indian giver, because everyone came bearing gifts. It was a gift away and forgiving. That's what the word actually came. So an Indian giver is actually a positive or benevolent thing, by the way. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention if they didn't know that. So that's part of our gift of the spirit. Healing and all that kind of fun things.
Yeah, I actually had to get Tony off the board. I'm bringing him into the call here with us, Karen, because there's something weird going on with his Skype. Because I was sending him messages and nothing was getting through to him. Anyway, Tony, are you there? Tony, yeah, he's got something going. Crazy. Here we go. Who got bumped this time? Is that John? Can you hear me? Okay.
I hear you fine, Kate.
All right. Well, we got about 14 or so minutes left here. 13 minutes actually. So it looks like Karen's getting bumped. Tony's nowhere to be.
We're back.
There you go. Still waiting.
Back.
Yeah, still waiting for Tony here, but. Particular question or comment, John?
Well, I kind of came on late. Karen, do you have websites?
You know what? You guys are going to love this. We used to have these websites, and it turns out my web guys were actually all CSIS. They were CSIS agents.
Nice.
And, we were all friends.
Hey, well, maybe they can give Tim Earl a call. He likes to utter death threats on Facebook. I wonder how they'll like it.
They actually asked, one of the guys, Peter Broad, actually, he asked if he was called Indian Machine or whatever, the Red Shaman, but we actually had him removed at the Syncrenicity area at that time for violations. So he was asked to move on or something. So their response was to take down all my websites. So we don't have anything, and seriously, we just literally came out of the Syncrenicity. We were running what you want to call health, like advanced health and healing. So we're doing biofeedback. We taught people colonics. We're running these wellness centers. And so people would come out there. There's Rishak Light One and myself, and we're doing Kangen and Kai Hicks was up there with intuitive path superfoods out of Saskatoon. And literally, we just finished it, and on the 21st to 22nd, my mom died in the fire here. And so we came here. Our children are here. So literally, we're resetting things back up here so we can get back to our little Garden of Eden out there. But we're really helping this area. We're going to have to bring some information out here that it's just going like wildfire. People are gifting out here. They're seeing people that haven't seen me for a couple years. They're just blown by the energy. We're starting to move to Solarian, Breatharian. So like friends of mine, Genesis Sunfire, Jasmucine, stuff like that. Again, we're fasting. We don't have to eat and don't have to drink. So when you're holding that vibration, we don't even have to do that. But those are transitions that people do. Is you've got to have that colon cleaned. You've got to have the right vibration there to hold that. That's all about freedom. And that's being in this world and not of it. So we had fun firewalking, but that's the whole huge thing there too. So I'd encourage people, if you haven't had the chance to go look at that, certainly to look that up. But all this stuff is coming, whether people talk about Revelation, prophecy, and the apocalypse, and all these great changes, it's a time of enlightenment. It's a time of learning that there are new things. And so really setting up these new nations and getting the unity of the bloodlines back together and bringing everyone back as brothers and sisters in a time of peace is really what it's about. It's about our freedom. And I think that's the thing, is that people don't know what the concept of freedom is. And so we're having just a blast doing this.
Hey, Karen, are you on a speakerphone?
No, actually just on a mic upright. Does it sound like it's disturbing again?
Oh, it doesn't sound too bad. I mean, it goes in and out a little bit as far as sound quality, but other than that, it's been pretty solid all night.
Oh, you know what? We went to Staples for this one.
Hey, you know, I've got like a $20 headset I've had for years. I think I paid $20 for it, and the sound quality I get from it is second to none.
Yeah, this is the new one. So we got a couple here we can play with.
Yeah, so I don't knock.
Kate, I've got an old. I'm calling in over VoIP off of a home phone, and it's an old AT&T digital.
Oh yeah.
From back in the 90s, and this is the second one I bought because people would tell me I could even call in on speaker, and they go, "Man, you're so clear. What are you calling on?"
Yeah, I know, it sounds great. It's a good piece of gear you've got, you know. Fully set up at the house. I was running through an AKG 535 with a full audio soundboard, EQ'd the whole 9 yards, so it sounded pretty impressive. But they kind of ripped that to shreds. So I've got pieces. I've got the pieces of it. I just can't set it up. I just don't have the means to do it. But no,
well, Karen, you've crossed a lot of material. And a lot of it is over my head. A lot of it, I don't know what you're talking about. I was just wondering if there was some place to go try to reference.
What I'd suggest, if you can, like right now, is that's why I'm giving you those references, like Dr. Gary Young or Raindrop Technique or scio, biofeedback, that sort of thing. Raw foods, that sort of, you know, at this point, till we can get something set up. Right now, like, we're way over, like, get this, we've got 5,600 people on Facebook alone. We were told at one point ours is third or fourth more access for point of information being disseminated on Facebook.
Okay, what's the Facebook called?
Facebook is called, ready? Karen Ann Macdonald. And you can hit the follow button if you like. So we do most of our blogging up there at this point. There are some websites that will be coming in down the road, but that's going to be projects down the road at this point.
Okay.
So we'd like to bring the attention, like that's what I'm saying, like the oils. If people have questions, they can actually go to Soul Salons. Like Jana, one of the girls there, they're putting what we're doing. There's a girl that does Raindrop and stuff like that, or some of the things there a little bit. People's got information, so we might be putting some things out there. What we're doing, she's like photocopying, you know, things and putting them up for internet. At this point, we haven't got the website up, and that's something I know a few people have actually put together for like the Clan Mother one and for the White Bear, that kind of thing. A few other things on Facebook, but we'd be spending all time basically just disseminating information. So it's a good point that, like I said, we'd like to do kind of a virtual health thing. And really, the first thing to anyone getting healthy and feeling better is enemas and colonics. And you can certainly look up how to do your own home enema or find out who's a colonic practitioner in your area. So I think that's part of the first thing is getting people healthy. And these documents, like I said, on Facebook, we've got the Universal Laws, Meredith Quinn. The man that disseminated a lot of this information to me is someone that was called Tim Phillips. And he actually is living up with some of the indigenous people up there that were out by the Jasper National Park before they decided to annihilate and put some people into a legal co-op like a band or reserve. And so Tim Phillips is actually on Facebook as well. And if people have questions with this, they could ask him. His Hotmail account is eagle.i.fan@hotmail.com. So, these are different things too, sometimes in talking with different people, disseminating the information. And this is some of the things we're looking at.
Did we lose her?
I'm not sure if we lost you there again or not. Tony's still not coming through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there she is.
Just we've only got a couple of minutes left here, so a couple of things that I wanted to get in.
Yeah.
We've got a little over 4.5 minutes. Sandy couldn't come back on, but what I did get are some websites involving her oils. If you guys want to go to them, it's nativenutriments.com. So it's native nutriments, MENTS.com, nativenutriments.com. Also paingenieusa.com. That's pain, GENIEUSA.com, paingenieusa.com, and awakeenergybullets.com, awakeenergybullets.com. And I know she's been putting a lot of work into all of these the sites. She's working with another very close friend of mine that's helping set these sites up. And I also know the people that Sandy has been working with. She's very close with Lakota. And I know the oils that she is getting are second to none through the natives, through the noble savages. And they will be the best on this planet, guaranteed.
It's interesting. I was just looking at the Gopals and stuff like that. A lot of the stuff, too, we've found on some of these people, like bringing stuff in here. I'm actually just looking at it now. Nature Food in here. Is a lot of this stuff, too, is, I'm actually on the site right now. Is that a lot of this stuff, too, people can put together themselves in here. And quite looking at this, there's some other things too. I guess having questions on some of this, but we can access some of this stuff as well. Most of these people are just brokers and stuff like that, and they're just energized with Copal and stuff. So I want to take a look at some of this. A lot of us people can put their own together here, absolutely, on stuff like this. So I just went to the site right now on here and supplement. So basically, Copel and stuff like that and all the different ones, they've just made their own synergy and blends with this. Not any different than what I'm seeing for some of the other things in here. These are virtually very similar to what the other guys are doing as well. And there's something called also a TARS, just to bring that to your attention. And the other thing, too, what we're not seeing is where the derivatives and stuff are off of. Most of the people are 100% because they're going through. These are companies, so they've been actually in here. Non-GMO'd and natural doesn't mean that what vibration they are here for. So just want to bring this up to your attention. I'm already on here, like scalar waves and stuff like that, and what these people are putting together here. So a lot of that on some of these, like I know you can actually get access for, make your own up here.
Awesome. Well, we got, you just heard the call there. We got about 90 seconds left, less now. So I want to do my thanks out to Critical Mass Radio Online as we run the parallel station with Critical Mass Radio. Thank you, Paul, Lisa, and the Critical Mass for giving us this opportunity every night, 7 nights a week, primetime Blog Talk Radio. Can't thank you enough, because we can bring amazing people on board to get out some of the cutting edge information that needs to be heard and needs to be shared with people. And Karen, someone had just asked me with regards to the bloodlines, if you can give like I said, we got 30 seconds. If you just give us a quick blurb on how to locate the bloodlines.
Bloodlines, people can go to the 7 Daughters of Eve, type in Brian Sykes and start teaching that. But virtually, if you go to watch Tribal Laws, Meredith Quinn, there's a 9-part series and another 6 on YouTube. You'll start getting some of the information. The bloodlines are through the nation. Hey,
Karen, could you slow down with that, because
you just raced right
as
through
fast as you talk.
Okay. Well, don't worry. We'll go into the recording if we have to. It's just important that people get the information.
7 Daughters of Eve, Brian Sykes, Oxford University, as you can type that in. But you can actually go to the
7 Daughters. Yeah, 7 Daughters of Eve.
And then also, if you go to YouTube and just look up the whole Meredith Quinn, Tribal Laws, Universal Laws, and it will talk a little bit about how they actually did these records and freedoms for these people. It's huge. Excellent.
Yeah, I've been through that. I remember watching some of the Winston Shrout, Meredith Quinn interviews, or shared talks, I guess they were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If memory serves.
Yeah, and there's a 9-part series with them right before he died, and so it's at home. It's not up for Academy Awards, but it's got some good information in there. And I guess contacting Tim, too, if people wanted, or they can contact me directly on Facebook, or my email is namelessbeing9@gmail. And again, here on Skype, it would be called Karen Mac, so CALLEDKARENMAC. So people can also get a hold of me, too.
Yeah, and again, people can get a hold of me, and I can obviously refer them over to you as well. It's kind of mainstay of what I do a lot of the day, in making sure that the right people get connected. Well, Karen, I got to say thank you so much, and John, thanks for jumping in tonight again. It's always great to hear.
Well, I was trying to back up Tony because nobody was on. Karen, what was that? What was your Skype? It's called
Karen Mac. CALLED. KARENMAC, called Karen Mac, and that'll get her on Skype. And you know better, John, because all I got to do is toss the contact over to you.
I hear you. I go under Karen. I go under John Galt. Expect something from me.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. And yeah, whenever you see a name, and we usually put in nameless or something, or called or something. We don't have a name. But, I appreciate everyone's interest and everything out there. And it'd be fun to do some sessions, like, on how to make a couple, like, really good shakes. Like David Wolf, or just go to NutriBullet. And David Wolf, like, do some fun things that, people could do at home just in 5-10 minutes. And how to make some quick sharing of recipes might be fun, too.
Right on. Okay, well, on that happy note, we'll wrap this one up, my hun. And thank you guys so much for being here, and thanks to all the listeners that tuned in tonight. Even Tim Earl, the guy that likes handing out death threats on Facebook. It's awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. By your actions, you are known, and boy, you're known by quite a few thousand people now. I guess what you sow, get to reap that one, but there you go. Anyway, much love to everyone, all the listeners, and We'll catch you guys tomorrow night. Don't forget Tammy Pepperman and Pat Chuley on Leaving the Farm, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard until March 31st when the UK finally decides to. To follow this time thing. But anyway, there you have it. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in to Outside the Box here on Wednesday night with special guest Karen Ann Macdonald and co-host Tony Z. For doing what you do, and of course, John, thanks for calling in, and Sandy as well. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Much love.
Hey, Kate.
Yeah.
I think I sent you a Skype about this call that's going on tomorrow night because I know you've got a call, but I think that this call will continue past your call.
Okay, yeah.
And if you guys can, if anybody can call in, I want you to call in, man.
Okay, I'll do the best I can, absolutely. I got your message on that. If you can repost it in Skype, that would be awesome, and okay. I will do my best, my friend. Okay?
Will do, and thanks, Karen. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Love y'all.
Yeah, love you too. What I was going to say, too, if anyone wants to see us a little bit in action, if you go to Karen Macdonald and Matrix Energetics, you'll catch, I think, one video left on YouTube if you want to see us playing in action a little bit. But I think it's really important, and what you were talking to with Sandra and stuff, too, is us people getting onto oils and getting good medical quality and stuff like that.
Okay, send me the links and I'll get them up on Facebook and get them viral. Okay?
Yeah, I'm lucky she's got no contracts with government agencies and stuff here, so that'd be interesting stuff.
Awesome. All right, guys, take care, and I'll catch you probably tomorrow night, John, if you're on that call, and if you are as well, Karen. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Yeah, thanks.
Good night.
Night. Peace.